UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. Special show today on the heels of yesterday's show. I interviewed a whistleblower about 2015, 2016, and you'll see and hear that exclusive interview with this guy who was in a deep underground military base. This gentleman will remain anonymous. We are pixelating his face because of the risk here. He was a whistleblower. He came out, and I had it in the very first edition of our first independent film, which is the Watchmen Chronicles. We're no longer carrying that. I redid it, I think, in 2022, and now it's 2023, and here we are with 5 offerings. But I'll get into that and so much more. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor.
As we age, our body's natural collagen production declines, leading to visible signs like thinning hair, brittle nails, joint discomfort, and worst of all, wrinkles. That's right, collagen, or the lack of it, is one of the leading causes of wrinkles and sagging skin. Unfortunately, most collagen typically found on store shelves don't provide the right type or amount of collagen necessary to combat wrinkles. This is why I use multi-collagen. And folks, I'm obsessed with the results I'm seeing on my skin. Multi-collagen provides the 5 types of premium collagen that my skin needs to look more youthful. I've seen smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer lines, and a more youthful glow. Plus, it easily mixes with coffee or tea or whatever you want to mix it with and has 0 flavor. Grab your bag now and it's 51% off only at healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com. Plus, order today to also receive free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping with your order. Once again, this limited time offer is only available at healthwithla.com, healthwithla.com. Check it out, folks. I take it as often as I possibly can.
The title of this show is my conversation with a real whistleblower. This man, as I said in the intro, came up to me at a conference, and he had a story, and I believed him. I mean, I'm a student of body language. He went back to his house and got all of his identification, showing that he was in the military, and he tells an unbelievable story. And you know, in 2015 and 2016, that's sort of like, wow, really? But because of all this now is rolling out, I've decided to go with it. I left it out of the remake that I did, I believe, in 2020, 2022. My gosh, the years go by so quickly. The bottom line is I think you'll find his testimony incredibly riveting. If what he says is true, it vets everything. It vets what Bob Lazar says, Philip Corso says, and other whistleblowers that have come on the record over the years. So this is on the heels of really the 15th rung of a disclosure ladder. Intelligence officials say U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin. So they're rolling it out, folks. Make no mistake about it. Military whistleblower claims U.S. has UFO retrieved pieces of metal. UFO Pentagon whistleblower speaks. Air Force veteran David Grush claims the government is covering up UFOs. Well, of course they are. Grush claims he has seen evidence of secret crash retrieval program. We've known about this for years, as I said yesterday. I won't belabor the point. So on the heels of this, and of course, there she is, Elizabeth Vargas, the UFO Pentagon whistleblower speaks, and there she is sort of at the end of the craft. For us, those of us who follow this and have been following it and studying it literally for generations, because some of us, like Gary Stearman, that's a whole other generation. Gary's been studying this thing for like 60 years, maybe even longer. So it goes back. It goes way, way back. I want to give a shout out to a colleague of mine, Brad. And I'll leave his last name out because I don't want to embarrass him. But I had no idea he was involved in Chuck Missler and Eastman's book on the whole UFO thing. And so I'll get into that probably in a future show, because it's very interesting. Because the basis of my book, Nephilim, I actually sent that over to Chuck Missler before it was published. And I'll just leave it at that. Before I go, Tim Burchett, on government UFO evidence, I believe we have a recovered craft. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Those of us who study this and have studied it for decades know that the craft are in deep underground bases, in hidden bunkers. We know that. We've had whistleblowers come before. And without any further commentary on me, although I will get way out on the back end, here's my conversation with the whistleblower. I'm in an undisclosed location with a gentleman whom we'll call George, who's going to come on the record and tell us a very, very interesting story. What's interesting about it to me is it confirms what we've heard rumors about basically for years, in fact, decades. Someone came and took you in California to what can only be described as an underground base. Tell us what happens.
Well, what happened this particular evening, we took this long 1.5 to 2 hour drive, and it was in the middle of nowhere. All I could remember seeing is pitch black. And we were headed towards this mountain. There was a dim light, and then he pushed some kind of button or signal something, and I saw lights come on. And as we approached this heavily fortified area, I remember going through like 3 or 4 separate checkpoints. And when we reached to the final checkpoint, they scanned his iris, his eyes, and it seemed like he passed his hand on a device and there was a beep that went off. So as we entered this base, we had this transport vehicle that looks like
Sounded like a golf cart, but retrofitted something. Okay.
Exactly. So we went deeper and deeper into this place, heavily guarded everywhere.
You're going down the whole time, deeper into the mountain.
Going down, we're going sideways, and we entered this restricted area. I remember these heavily armed guards passing probes of some sort over our bodies. And we entered this area, and I just saw blue dim lights. And in the middle area, there were 7 different vehicles. These vehicles seemed like they were UFOs. These objects just seemed like they were out of science fiction. I did not recognize what they were. Some was dish-shaped, but it was nothing I've ever seen before on standard conventional military bases. And at that time, I was exposed to many different aircrafts and different flying.
So this was nothing you've seen before, top secret, but did it seem like it was one of ours or something else?
It seemed like it was something else, totally foreign.
There were beings present in this heavily fortified, secured area.
The entities was about 300 feet to 400 feet on some sort of balcony.
Like a platform or a balcony up high?
Yes.
So they're looking down on everything.
They're looking down on everything.
What did the beings on the balcony look like?
It seems that the being in the balconies, they were dressed in these pale green robes. I could not recognize their eyes because of the lighting. They seemed to have like a gray tone to their skin. Their heads was greatly elongated. They have distinctive kind of like cheekbones. Their eyes was larger than normal. It was mostly black from what I could see.
Okay.
And it seemed that they were given direction to the workers.
Did you ever see any of the craft actually fly?
I've seen it hover
Okay.
in the base.
Did it make any sound when it hovered?
Whistling sound, and it was a emanation. It was like a glowing light.
Glowing light, okay. Getting back to the very tall figures on the balcony, and I realized they were a distance away from you, but how tall would you estimate them to be? And did you ever see one up close?
I've never seen them up close. They maintained a distance, and they were approximately, I'd say, over 9 feet tall. Our government and many other governments is forming an alliance together, and what they be it, and they want to usher in some kind of centralized government that all nations, the whole world, will be under.
George, I want to thank you so much for coming on the record, and I thank you for your boldness, and we really appreciate it. So this is our conversation with another whistleblower. This is whistleblower number 2. I met this man at a prophecy conference. He came up to me. He would not come on camera. He told me his story. You'll hear that in just a second. But for those of you who are watching, the reason why we've done 3 UFO shows, UAP shows in a row, is because of this, the debrief. Intelligence officials say U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin. What are we to make of that? I mean, it was on Fox, CNN. It's been repeated. It's been copied. The show with Elizabeth Vargas and the so-called whistleblower. It's big news. For those of us who have traveled in this, it's not big news at all. Military whistleblower claims U.S. has UFO retrieval program. So again, I talked about this a couple of days ago. A woman, we were at the Colorado Prophecy Watchers Conference. A woman came up to me and told me her father was in one of those secret military operations, as it were, and he was dispatched to a place where a crash disk had happened. They were supposed to put a perimeter around it. They did, but before they did, they got to look in the craft and he saw the bodies. So maybe more about that at another time. Obviously, he will not come on the record. These people hold everything and their non-disclosure agreements, they hold it sacred. Now, Colonel Hill, which is it's going to be in the Roswell show, which is number 7. We're in post-production on that. Colonel Hill did a deathbed confession. He was flown to Roswell. He tried to communicate with one of the dead bodies. I'm not making this stuff up. And now I think it's very apropos that we move this information forward so the people can see it for themselves. That's Elizabeth Vargas. Of course, UFO Pentagon whistleblower speaks. USO allegedly found non-human craft. Representative Tim Burchett on government UFO evidence. I believe we have a recovered craft. Absolutely. So here's my interview with the whistleblower number 2. For decades, we've heard about secret underground bases all over the United States. We've even heard the very strange and bizarre story of allegedly alien entities working side by side with human beings. Is this just an elaborate ruse? Is this a canard? It's just absolutely fantastic to hear about it. And yet, I have 2 whistleblowers that came on the record anonymously. Their experiences are decades apart. There is no collusion between them, and they have no knowledge of each other's stories. I leave it up to you to listen to their testimonies, to weigh what they have to say, and decide for yourself if it's true or just an elaborate ruse. If it is true, then we are much further down the rabbit hole than any of us would have thought.
At a conference last year, a man came up to L.A. Marzulli and wanted to talk to him alone. Marzulli had met this man before, so there was a certain degree of familiarity. However, nothing could have prepared Marzulli for what he was about to hear.
I just told you I spent 28 years working in top secret classified military intelligence operations, and nothing was related to this conference we're having here. But one of the most honest men that I worked with, that's about 60 years old, was over my home 6 months ago and said he has a brother-in-law that works in a similar compartment of top secret classified operations, and that he actually works somewhere in the southwest of a desert area with these aliens. Because I was trying to explain to him what I've been learning through you and through these conferences about what are these UFOs and aliens. They're really demonic angels. They're coming in and out of these dimensional portals. And he actually confirmed in my home that his brother-in-law works in another area of the government that we can't talk about, but it dealt with these aliens and that he works side by side.
Did he describe what they looked like?
He just told me what he has heard through his brother-in-law, who also wouldn't exaggerate or pull his chain. That's about his...
Did his brother-in-law, why did he confide in him? Any idea?
Guess he just fear and anxiety. And that's probably why Tim shared that.
Did his brother-in-law state whether he felt they were benevolent or malevolent?
We didn't get into it. He's very careful just to give me a hint that as I was explaining things I've learned through you and my own experiences in life, that his brother actually works with these non-human elements, entities, exactly.
And did he give you is it ongoing now? I get the impression that
Yeah, this was going, I still talk to this gentleman who retired and came back into the world we worked in. And, yeah, this stuff is continuous.
continuing.
And then based on what I've learned just through watching the History Channel, see Germany, this has been an ongoing.
From the 40s.
Right.
Wow.
So.
A gentleman who has to remain anonymous due to security clearances has just come on the record and told me some startling information. It's important that we get this information out, which is why the entire week has been dedicated doing UFO shows, talking about the phenomenon. It's in the news, it's in your face, it's in our faces. So what are we supposed to do with this information? As a Christian, how does it dovetail together with the biblical narrative? And I'm going to do another show for Friday, which is going to talk about some of that. I think you'll find that interesting. So in the meantime, folks, we've got a 5 DVD box set. We don't have it yet. It's in production. As I said yesterday, I would strongly suggest buying this, sitting your family down and showing it to them. Now is the time to educate your family, your loved ones, because when they show up, it's going to be a lot of confusion and a lot of fear. Now is the time that your pastor gets a hold of this. And isn't it interesting? And I'll just say this, and hear my heart here, because I'm part of the body of Christ. I love the body of Christ. I love the church. So the bottom line is this. All this broke. You would think that my email would blow up. It's not. Now, researchers have contacted me. Fans of the show have contacted me. I get that. But so far, not one pastor has emailed me or said, LA, can you come to our church and talk about this? Not one. Folks, am I angry or bitter about it? No, I'm saddened by it. I'm saddened by it. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So I'm here with Fred, and first of all, I thank you for coming on the record. It's very difficult sometimes for people to express what happened to them, even if it's decades ago. I've had people come up to me at conferences and they've never told another living soul what happened to them. Sometimes it's multiple abductions over a period of time. Sometimes it's close encounters at the third time where they're seeing entities, and there's nowhere to go with this information. In our fourth film, which is on the abduction phenomena, what's interesting about this is we sit down in the very beginning of the film and we talk about people are violated, they're confused, they're hurt, they're angry, and there's no place to go with it because people think you're certifiable. The whole purpose of this interview is to say that people are not certifiable. Something is going on. It's supernatural. It's spiritual. It goes back to the Genesis 3:15 narrative where the mingling of the seed, because that's what's happening. And we've already delved into that, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But thank you for coming on the record. Something happened to you. Give us the backstory, please.
Okay. Well, it was back in 1978, and it was, I guess would be in the late fall, maybe very early winter. And me and my brother, we were still living at home. I was 19, my brother's 3.5 years younger than me, so of course he was about 16. And it was a very cloudy night, very overcast. Mm-hmm. And there was no stars shining. I mean, it was just very overcast. And where we lived at, our every now and then we'd have to go out and turn the television antenna to face St. Louis to pick up a signal. Okay. And my the wind would blow it, you know, if you're out of range and have to go out there. And my stepdad had built a long porch across the front of the house, and it had a roof over it. So I'd have to go to the far end of the porch, towards the north of it, turn the antenna. Well, we live out in the country on an old farm, and our dog, which being a country dog's usually not afraid of anything. There wasn't a pup. He was a mature male dog. And as I was turning the antenna, he started pushing on me. And he about pushed me off the porch. And I'm thinking, what's your problem? And I looked down at him, and his fur was standing on end, and he was urinating all over himself. And that immediately got my attention. It's like, what's going on? And then I started hearing a sound. As soon as I realized something was wrong here, because before my attention span, I was trying to get that silly antenna facing St. Louis, and I heard a sound, and it was a frequency. It was a pitch, frequency pitch. It would start out real low and cycle real high and start all over again. So I'm looking around trying to figure out, where is this coming from? And I'm finally just pinpointed out to the south of our house where the field was. And on the old farm, there used to be several hog houses. And they had all been tore down. And there was the biggest one that had a cement bottom to it. And it had been tore down, cement foundation was still there. And it was like off to the southwest of our house, about 75 foot out.
Okay.
And I went over and looked out underneath the edge of the roof. And I kept hearing that sound, and I was perplexed by it because I couldn't figure out what would make that sound. And as I looked out, it was like someone had taken a knife and it cut a perfect hole in the sky, as if the floor of heaven had a hole cut out of it or something. I mean, this bright light was shining, not like a beam coming down, but you could literally see a bright light in that hole that filled it all up. The dog by that time was again against me, still urinating all over, so his hair was on, and he was whining.
Wow.
And I'm looking at him, I'm looking at that, and I thought, what is that? I couldn't hear the sound. Helicopters you can hear.
Sure.
Airplanes you can hear, and this, all it had was that strange sound. So I went back into the house, and my brother was laying in his bedroom reading. His light was on. And it was still fairly early because of that time of the year, it gets dark early. And I looked at him. My stepdad and mom were gone. And I told him, I said, something's out there, and I don't know what to think of it. It's scaring the dog to death, and it's freaking me out. And he said, don't tell me no more. I don't want to hear it. You're scaring me. So I'm just going to turn out all the lights, and I'm going in my room, and hopefully this thing just disappears. If I laid down, I didn't want to turn the light on, because I think whatever's out there, I can't explain it. So I shut the light off, and I fell asleep. And that's the best way I could put it. And passed out, whatever you want to say, freak out, just the intensity in the grip, like, what is this? And next thing I know, I woke up. I was laying on this metal table with a sheet over me, and on my back, and I could see my feet sticking out on the end. And these figures was around at my feet, and they had the elongated black eyes and the shaped heads, they were weird, and long fingers. I remember at least long fingers, several of them. And one of them reached out and touched my side. I remember I was raising up trying to look around because I knew this wasn't my room, and I had no idea where I was at, but it touched my side. And I don't remember what side, if it was left or right. All I know is that the minute it touched my side, I felt the pain. And I just fell back, and next thing I know, I woke up. When I woke up, I had a pain that just wouldn't go away. It burned, and it lasted for months. I remember.
Where was the pain?
It was in my side, front part of on my.
Where the entity touched?
Where it touched me, yeah, and it burnt. I mean, it was a chronic burning. It wasn't like an intensity that would bend over. It was like a chronic burning, kind of like if you get a toothache, toothaches. My mother looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? She said, you probably should go to the doctor, get this checked out. And I said, no, Mom, I'm going to be okay. I'm 19 years old. I'm thinking there's been worse things I'm sure I've been through, and just a matter of days it's gone. You get muscle strain from putting up hay or stuff like that. And I thought, mate, I was just blowing it off because I'm thinking that had to be a dream, had to be a dream, had to be a dream. And it lasted for at least 2 months, and finally it faded away. Well, that was 78, and then in 1980 I became a Christian. And by that time I'd started thinking, well, with all the demonic activity out there, I had dabbled in the dark arts and things prior to that when I was 17, had gotten doing things I dabbled in, mess that I should never done. So when I became a Christian, I started thinking if that was real, it had to be demonic. I couldn't, because it just didn't add up with what I read in the Bible.
Sure.
So in 86, I was at Walmart with my first wife. I was married for 3.5 years, a short period of time. Anyway, we had just gotten engaged. In the book section, I was walking past the book section there, and they usually have their displays and the most best-selling books. And I just wanted to see what they had. And as I walked by, I seen that book, Communion.
Whitley Strieber.
Yeah, with the gray alien. And my heart jumped. I stopped, and I took a look at that. Oh, my gosh. It left me dumbfounded, and it's, oh no, this is what it was. It's like up to that time I had no clue. So then, after we were married, about a year later, I was painting a house across the river from where we used to live. They had an office that was built onto a pretty old house, about like what this one is. And I was painting the wall of the bedroom above the office there, and I heard that noise again. Heard it exactly again. And this time I'm standing there on the roof. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Right. The nape of my neck, like the hairs doing a march across it. And I looked around, and I could see it in the east, and it was in a clear blue sky. And it was a silver disc, but from a distance, it couldn't have been no more than the size of a quarter.
So if you hold your hand out like this, is it like the size of your thumbnail?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just hanging there, making that noise. And all of a sudden, you feel like something kind of grips your throat. You want to speak, but your words are getting caught, So I finally stuttered out, in the name of Jesus Christ, I know what you are, and you're not putting me through this again. Wow. You leave right now in the name of Jesus Christ. Be gone. Immediately it disappeared. Wow. I never had that encounter again.
Let me go back to the encounter the first time before you were a Christian. So were you taken? Was your brother taken with you, or don't you know? Did he ever say anything?
He's never said a word. If he had or not, I don't know. He's never spoke of it. If he has, not to me.
Okay.
And I didn't share it with anybody.
Okay. So you I don't know whether you're aware of this, but everybody who's taken winds up on the metal table, and there's a examination, or so they call it. Sperm is taken from the men, ovum is taken from the women. Did you have any trouble urinating after the experience?
I don't remember, actually. If I did, at that time, I was still thinking it was a dream. So what they're giving it a lot of credit as being much else, because it was too weird, and I didn't really want to think of it as anything else than that. I was in denial. And
so let's go back to the dog. Dogs sense danger, and obviously for a dog to urinate on himself and he's coming up against you, he knows something's about to happen. Yeah. What are your thoughts there?
He never behaved that way before. And we live out in the country, there's coyotes. There was a yearly round of a panther. They're kinds of country animals. Sure. So, but for him to do that, he's never done that before. And I felt sorry for him. If I could have let him in the house, I could have, but I felt probably just as helpless as he did. And what I told my brother, I didn't go into detail, because my brother was already panicking from what I told him. He's 16 years old. He never heard of anything like that, and he knew I wasn't lying. but it was making him more scared. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I wonder if it's going to be here when my parents get home, you know. And I was just,
How big was the circle in the sky?
it was huge. You figure the length of the old pig house floor, it was bigger than it. And you could have easily put that in
50 feet?
No, it wouldn't be that long. I would say more like
Maybe 30?
something like that. Anyway, because it was always called the big pig house because it was the main one. You know, we had two, and but it was big enough that whatever was above it, it was larger than that. But why it was circling on that area, and I got to thinking later about the parable where the demon want to go into the swine.
Right. Interesting. But you're not a Christian at this point. You're
No, not saying you put me.
had you had dabbled in the dark arts, as it were, before
Right.
a few years prior to that. When this hole in the sky opened up, did you see anything in it other than the light? Was there a faint outline of anything?
No.
Well, how much time elapsed between you're out there looking at this hole in the sky, as it were, and before I ask the question, how far up was that roughly? 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, or lower?
Well, yeah, I don't know much about how to. All I can say would be your average height of whenever storm clouds are overhead.
Okay, so it's pretty low.
Yeah.
All right. So you see the light. You're standing there. How long do you look at it?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, you're there looking at it for 10 minutes.
And probably, I would say that would be fair assumption.
Why did you go back in the house?
Fear.
Okay.
Fear.
Did anything happen during that 10 minutes? Did the light change color?
No.
Move?
No.
It's just constant.
It was in it stayed there constantly. The cycling kept going on, a rotation.
Was there a beam coming down from it?
From what I remember, it just looked like someone had taken a knife and it cut in a perfect circle. And you could just.
And it sat like that.
Yeah.
It didn't change.
No.
So whatever this thing was had control over the weather. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, to do what it did, no clouds intervening in that circle. I mean, it was a perfect hole. I mean, it was, and just a bright light. I don't, and then the sound. I kept looking, thinking that I should see something. That's why I kept standing there thinking, like, there's got to be something that would be causing this. What else? I mean, I was expecting some aircraft that I'm familiar with,
Right.
airplane, helicopter.
That never happened.
No.
So you were walking back from basically the old the cement slab where the pig house was. The light's still there. Did you look behind your shoulder as you walked? Did you kind of glance back to see if it was still there? Did you run to the house? Did you walk to?
Well, the roof limited me. Once I got within that, where the roof no longer you can see beyond it.
Okay.
I didn't bother to go back and look again. I
Okay.
was just like, nope, because
So you walk in the house. You tell your brother. Did you peer out any of the windows to see if the light was still on the field?
I didn't. I don't know if he did.
Okay.
I don't know what he did. He just was very determined. He didn't want me to say anything more. So maybe he did. If he never said a word to me. My brother's always been very quiet about things. He never. And I didn't say anything at all for many years up until last couple months.
Okay.
And I was talking to some friends of mine and talking back that time and talking about that time. St. Clair was experiencing UFO flaps of its own, roughly that same year. And
Okay. That's interesting.
I decided then to open up. And have you guys ever know of anybody experienced that? And what?
Do you remember being? So you said in your testimony that you awakened on the metal table with the sheet over you. There at your feet. Did you have clothes on?
I don't know.
You don't remember.
I don't know.
How long were you awake on that before the entity came over and touched you when you went out again?
Not very long. 5 minutes, maybe.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Did the entities move during that fight?
Yeah. They kind of came up to notice that I was alert.
Right.
It's that they moved up to see if
Right.
I was alert.
You left that out in your testimony. That's why I'm roving here.
Yeah.
So okay, so they move up. Then what happens?
That's when I see their fingers, and I notice the one reaches out and touches my side. And
Here's my index finger. How much longer?
oh, they were long. Twice that maybe. I don't know. They were long. I remember they were long, bony looking.
Right.
And,
How many fingers?
I just remember them having fingers. I don't know, 5 on each hand. Maybe I don't know if there's more or not. I was too panicking.
I understand. Were you able to move on the table?
No. Other than raise my head, like I'm laying flat on my back,
Right.
looking and see the top of my feet. And I did move my head a little bit to the right,
Right.
because that's when I noticed the one come up. And
How many of them were there?
I seen at least, I don't know, 3, maybe 3. If there were more, I was already too focused on just what I was taking, because that was enough, right?
Did you get a message? Did they communicate with you telepathically? Nothing at all like that. How did they seem to you? When you're
Non-friendly.
not friend.
There's a word that I'd like to say, but I can't. There's a word for it, but they always say they weren't friendly. As if they were just there. Expressionless.
Mm-hmm. Void. Did they have emotion that you saw or no?
No.
And you said expressionless. That's why.
I couldn't. It was like they knew I was alert.
And they put you back down again.
Yeah, the moment they touched me, I don't know if it was past now. Well, I know the next thing I woke up, I was back in my room.
So when you're in your room now, and we'll still go back to the table maybe in a little bit. So you're back in your room, and the next morning you wake up, and you're not sure whether it's a dream or it happened. What were your pajamas like? Was there anything weird about that?
No, well, no, can't say that either. I mean, these are details that I would not have. When you're thinking it's a dream,
You're not looking.
yeah.
But now, 45 years later,
Yeah, I
was there anything weird with the pajamas?
no.
Was there any visible mark on your side where the thing touched you?
I just don't remember. All I remember is the burning. I won't lie because I don't remember.
It's okay.
And all I remember is the burning. That was the one thing. And I did look to see if there was possible redness or anything, because I'm thinking, was it a spider bite? Could I have gotten bit or something? You living out in the country. Yeah, something maybe could have gotten my. But this is not that time of year. But in the house, you do get brown recluses and stuff.
Very nasty.
But it was just constant. It was enough that made my mother really concerned. She kept asking me, "You need me to take you to the doctor?" And
Why would she say that? Because you were going, ow? Or why would
I would stand? I would have this look grimace on my face. I guess it gave me away, and it was just I was always in discomfort and not a normal self. And she would every now and then kind of pressure me, and I know, Mom. I'm thinking, what am I going to tell him? And I'm almost
natural saying it?
yeah.
What about your appetite? Did it affect your appetite?
I don't remember that either. I was not very much to eat a whole lot in big settings anyway.
What about passing urine or feces or any of that?
That I don't
remember.
I don't remember either.
Remember.
If it did affect me, I probably would have
Says something.
Yeah.
Let's go back on the ship. What is the lighting like on the ship? You're on the table, you wake up, you look at your feet. There are 3 gray aliens with the big eyes, the big heads. What's the lighting in the room like?
Well, it was light enough that I could make out it was a white sheet that was on me, and I could see the table was like a silver metal table. And I could see my feet. I mean, it wasn't like I was looking in shadows. So it was bright enough. Where it was coming from, I have no clue. But where they were at, like they kind of came up as though in the shadows, out of some shadows was where I was at, and we're there. It was
Did any of them lean forward and get in your face?
no.
Okay.
No.
He just touched you on your side.
Yeah, and I'm like, looking back, I'm thinking, why did they touch me on my side? What there could have been that could have possibly been necessary to do that?
And you went out right after that.
Yeah.
And then you don't remember anything.
No. I wish I did, but I don't. I mean, at the same time, what I do remember just from that is enough that left me wanting never to say anything unless I absolutely had no choice, or enough time went by where I could speak about it.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you something. When you're there, you're looking at them. Did you see behind them? Did you see where the room at all where you were?
No, I sure did.
Did you see any instruments?
No.
Nothing. Just the three.
Yeah.
2 or 3 entities.
Yeah. It's sort of like one of those nightmares you hate to gaze at too long.
Right. Anything else?
No.
It'd be interesting if you could do a regression to see if any other memories would be jarred, because there's stuff probably in there, but they suppress it, and so you don't remember. Well, thank you for coming on the record. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I don't know if it's helpful or not, but
No, it is. It's very helpful, because what people need to understand is that this phenomenon is ongoing. There's Christians who've been taken, and then they stopped their abductions. There are people like yourself who were taken before they became a Christian, and then you're on the roof and you go, in the name of Jesus, no, and the thing leaves. We've heard this a lot. There was a man whose name was Kevin at the conference this weekend, and he's been abducted since he was 6 years old. He's a born-again, spirit-filled Christian, but he's still being taken, and which was very, very disconcerting. And so we prayed over him, and I felt I had a word from the Lord saying, break the generational stuff. And his past is like really hazy. He doesn't know where he comes from. So we prayed over the generational stuff, because they're very interested in, if your grandmother was abducted, the chances are your mother was abducted, but chances are if you're a female, you were abducted. That's just how it goes. I'm happy that it stopped. For you, most people, it stops. They can break it. That's of course in our film on the abductions. But thank you so much for coming on the record. God bless you. Appreciate it, Fred.
well, thank you. God bless you as well.